Hey everyone, it's me, it's Stardust Raccoon. Welcome back to the channel. It's last night I made a video explaining that I'm transitioning species. Not just transitioning genders, but transitioning species. I'll be going from this to something, not this, but something very similar to this. It's Tesco. But I thought I'd do a little bit better video and try to explain it a little bit more. So you've known me, and I've known me most of my entire life as wanting to be a raccoon. This. I have wanted to be this. If I had my opportunity, I would be her full time. If I had my opportunity. If only the doctors at the Mayo Clinic were that damn good. And this is how I've seen myself my entire life. I've always wanted to be a raccoon. And to be a raccoon, there are certain hallmarks. And there were just certain hallmarks I never hit with being a raccoon. I enjoy digging through the trash, but not really. You know, it's kind of fun. Go treasure hunting, junk hunting, that kind of thing. You know, I've, of course, got my wiggly stealer grabbers. But for the most part, the sensation and the want was there, but never a full 100% synchronization ratio, Shinji. And I've been okay with that because I'm also part bunny. You know me also as Rampart Lapinathi, my little brother, who has been on the channel before. That's me. I've always been part bunny, part raccoon. When I first came out as a furry, and you have to understand the 2000s were a really different time for furries. It was kind of hard to want to be a furry. It was kind of hard to have this drive to be a furry in the 2000s, especially if you were worried about fitting into social structures. I was an online person only. My family was incredibly adamant about me never talking to people online because of online predators, and I listened. And I never really developed any furry friendships. But with that being said, hang on. Sorry, Autumn, I owe you a Chobani. I was hungry. There was never a full connection with or being a raccoon. I consider myself to be Etherean. And there's many different definitions of that. My definition is I want and have the feels and urgencies of being an animal. Um, it's almost like a religious aspect. Animal spirit, animal spirited. There's lots of definitions for lots of other people, and I'm not going to speak for them. I only speak for myself. Like I said, if I could be her full time, I would because it makes me happy. I love it when I come back from a convention and I have phantom tail syndrome. And this thing is flopping behind me, and I need to get it restuffed soon. But there's always kind of been something else there since I discovered it. And failure to connect with the species is not a failure on my part as much as it is a journey of self discovery. You know, at one point in time, I was very sure I was straight and male. And I hid a lot of tendencies, and I tended to repress a lot of urges. Then I gave into those urges and said, fuck it, and got a little happier when I came out as LGBT. And I came out as gay, and I was happy, but there was always the other stuff that was buried that I chose to ignore. And the reason why you ignore it is because you've done it for so long, there's really nothing else you can do other than continue to ignore it. And then eventually, you meet people who help you discover who you are. And you keep going. In the I want to say the fall of 2022, when I had Rampart, I bought a book. It was an online book. I was trying to get into reading. I had just been exposed to the core, and the core is very reading. A lot of it is literature. A lot of it is art and media. And my kind of specialty within the core became, I was the girl who made the vests. And still love it that I had those things out there and that those things exist, and I occasionally see them at conventions. It was really cool seeing a panel of peers wearing vests that I helped design and other people helped make, because at one point in time it was a me only and I made my own vest, to I had some help from a very close friend of mine helping make these vests, and it was really cool. But you get to reading and you start reading more and more stuff. And I had just gotten a Kindle and I was looking for stuff to read on Kindle, and I happened across this. It was a couple of bucks and I decided to buy it. What is a Geroo? So I'm just going to put up here on Still Store. This is a picture of the Geroo as drawn by Rick Griffin in 2022. I'm going to start kind of at the bottom right corner and talk about population. The Geroo are in a state of diaspora, following the destruction of their home planet known as Geroo after the Raccoon naming convention. They are relative newcomers to the galactic scene, and without a home planet are considered somewhat rare. Estimates of their total population are hard to verify. However, a general breakdown of rules goes as follows, and you can see there. Roughly about, let's say, 40 million of this particular fictional species running around in the galaxy. Like most sensible species, Geroo wear a minimum of clothing, especially on board well-regulated environments. The only clothing considered to be required are a necklace and a tail ring. So this is a Geroo. They're kind of a kangaroo-like species. Back in 2023, I purchased a lion suit. There's my boy. His name is Nyota. I was, at that point in time, so desperate to be a furry. And through sheer luck and falling into things at the time, met a guy. He had a lion suit for sale. I bought the lion suit. But he also had this blue kangaroo named CB. And I tried to buy CB. I had him for a while. Things didn't work out. And CB ended up getting sold to someone else. The same person who bought my Nyota when I sold Nyota. And for a short time, when I was friends with CB, I was happy, because as much as I loved Nyota and my little crazy college boy, something about CB just fit. And I don't know what. And it was one of those, you don't question it. As I sit here and lick the yogurt off my finger. Normally you have to pay for that. But something about CB was perfect. And I had to give him up, and it hurt. It hurt a lot at the time. And as with all things, eventually the hurt goes away. But there was something about having a big tail. There was something about having a pouch that I really liked. But I was a raccoon. I was so focused on her, I couldn't focus on myself at the time. So back to 2023, I had just gotten a Kindle and I had started reading, and I was really into reading. I was reading stuff I was reading Syntax. I was reading a little bit of Autumn at the time. There was lore from the boss. There was other books being published. I think Brenda Perfler was in there. I had just heard of GSR, Gray Smoke Rising. And I was looking for anything to read because it was a great way of actually going through lunch and having some good downtime at work when I worked at Disney. And I bought a copy of Reaper's Lottery for my Kindle. I didn't know what I was getting into. What are the Geroo? Well, beyond what was just said, there's this mention about the loss of their homeworld. The Daru are a fictional spacefaring species that is placental but mammalian, but they have a pouch, so there's a little bit of marsupial in there. But fictional species, right? And for the most part, they are forced employees of a species known as the Raccoon, a giant lizard, a very self-superior lizard. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's kind of this really evil form of space capitalism. What I discovered with the Geroo were a people steeping in lore, steeping in pain, steeping in uncertainty, steeping in monotony, steeping in capitalism, steeping in their own lives, but still somehow they get up every day with a smile, knowing that if they live on a certain kind of ship or place, that their lifespans are limited and that there is an underlying pain that they all go through. There is a underlying fear, but fueled by hope, fueled by the idea that maybe they can escape this fate and escape this thing. And it's been incredibly refreshing to meet a species like that. So I read some of the stories, and I sit down one night and I go, okay, well, what makes a Geroo? They wear a necklace like this, actually exactly like this. And they wear a tail ring exactly like this. And at the time, still wholeheartedly Raccoon, I had a friend 3D print me a tail ring that would be put on my tail because it's a cute idea, right? Tee. And then I made a little wooden bead necklace that is over there in my shrine. And I painted it out of wood that I had bought at Michael's hobby store and put a little cord around it and would wear it occasionally around the house. No harm, no foul. And at some point, I want to talk about Tori and Reaper's Lottery. Because this book and Conti Cycle and The Final Days of White Flower 2 and Tales of Hayven Celestia and Executioner's Gambit have changed my life to the point I'm changing species. Like I said, beginning of this video, I am changing species. How great am I? But I know you and I miss these old talks. I miss being able to explain myself to a camera and hopefully read some comments about what you're thinking about as we talk about them. And this is something I really want to address. I read some of Rick's comics, like Skin Change, with Joja, the Free Geroo. And I read Conti Cycle, and you get introduced to this wonderful group of characters that you don't want to let go of. And there are very few Geroo furries. Chester Geroo, the opera singer, is one that I can definitely point to off the bat. I would love to talk with Chester and just understand why they chose Geroo and what brought them to that. it's an incredible world that these creatures inhabit. But what ended up happening, and I talked about this in my last video, is here lately, well, let's go back a little bit further. 2024, I left home, I left Florida, and struck out on my own to have a different life. And so I moved from Florida to Ohio for a little bit. And Ohio is when I started really talking full time with my soon to be or eventual girlfriend, Autumn. There she is. There she is. Isn't she beautiful? I mentioned in the last video, I have a plural system. Think, and maybe I'm explaining this wrong, but my plural system is pretty much kind of like if a fursona could talk. They speak up, they want to protect me, as it's been explained, it's not anything like worrisome. It's not like, ooh, take this pill, the voices go away. It's kind of, they say the things that I wouldn't, much like she will say the things I wouldn't, much like Rampart will say the things I wouldn't. These are personas without bodies. And one of my headmates popped out and chose Geroo because that's what she was looking at the time. And she chose Tesco. Tesco is one of the characters from Final Days of White Flower 2. And this is, she said, this is how I want to be seen. I was like, okay, cool. That's you. Recently, I really had to go back and start examining who I was, what I was. I had to look at my own value system. I had to look at myself. And it was a difficult look. It's not always a pleasant thing, having to analyze what you do and how it hurts people and how you hurt yourself trying to help yourself. And what ends up happening next is a little uncomfortable because there was a deconstruction that I've been working on through therapy and a deconstruction that I have been trying so hard to fit in. When I came to the core, I was worried about fitting in. I went out and got a tattoo on my chest that was not so much an allegiance, but a reminder of when things got really bad, who it was that helped me the most. And I am forever in your debt. When I came out of this almost Evangelion-like deconstruction, the raccoon didn't fit anymore. Not like it did. Not how I wanted to be seen. Not how I had hoped it would go. Because, I mean, I've wanted to be a purple raccoon my entire goddamn life. Suddenly, I wanted to be this spacefaring little Geroo. And my wants and needs changed. My drive has changed. My want to understand things have changed. I've adopted a lot of the pseudo culture, I guess you would say. I don't know. Right now, I'm working with an artist, Anime Cat, who helped design Stardust Raccoon, who helped design Rampart to some extent. Is working on my Geroo ref. and we're going to figure out who I am. So I'm still Stardust. I still respond to the name Stardust. But I think I'm going to be actually leaning on my real name a lot more, which is Judy. I'm going to give it the Geroo naming convention and add a bunch of useless consonants and a crazy vowel in there, just because why not? But these books really help me discover myself, because as a Therian, now when I walk around, I have phantom tail a lot of the days. It makes me happy, and I don't know if I can explain how important just being happy is without understanding the underlying causes anymore. What was funny was Alexandria really latched on to Tesco. And if I talk frankly for a moment, Tesco, the character, is short. I wanted to be short my entire life. I've never wanted to be almost 6 feet tall. I remember distinctly working at Disney, cursing under my breath because I would never be as tall as Mickey Mouse. I was taller. And I didn't like that. Tesco is somewhat of a logical science officer. I like logic. I like understanding the world around me. I like understanding things and having scientific observational data that helps me understand the world around me. It's the scientist in me. She has horrible anxiety. Trans furry living in this timeline. Horrible anxiety. She's experienced loss. So have I. She has a little bit of an alcoholism problem. I am the same. I have situational alcoholism in a big crowded room. I can't turn off the spigot because I think I'm funnier when I'm drunk. She likes numbing the pain. I like numbing the pain too. So there's a few similarities that have brought me to this character that, as I've been reading over the last week or two, The Captain's Oath, book 2 of The Final Days of White Flower 2, I've really been discovering a lot of myself in Tesco that I didn't necessarily knew existed, which is weird because, I've seen this picture now for years from Rick. I want to say I bought this from him at a convention one time, but it's hard explaining what just fits. And over time, you're going to notice that there will be more changes coming to the channel, that there will be eventually a Geroo sitting in the seat more so than a Raccoon. So what does this mean for her? What does this mean for Stardust? Nothing. She's still me. She's mine. I'm not selling her. She's not for sale. She's not for rebranding. She's not going to become just a character. We've been together too long to separate. And who knows, maybe in time I will feel less for this suit. I doubt it. She's my pride and joy. The first thing I packed when I left Florida was her. The first thing I've always packed first was her. She is my most important possession. I have it in my will that if something happens to me, she goes to my girlfriend, Autumn, and Rampart goes to her big sister named Paula, who lives elsewhere. And I just want to make sure that they're safe, obviously. But in time, I really want to build a Geroo. I really want to feel like myself. I really want to feel that connection. The sadness of this species that is wrapped in incredible joy, almost kind of like a trauma burrito, is somewhat appealing. They keep trudging on because they have to. Otherwise, everything falls apart. And I suck at that. When everything starts falling apart, I easily fall apart. And what has been probably the most fun is that sense of self-discovery. Recently, I got a tattoo. There you go. You can kind of see it now. Adore a sword, because I've been through a lot. I got this with my bonus from work. And I've seen other people who get belly nip tattoos. I kind of want a pouch tattoo. I kind of just want this little thing right here. Once after I get my laser hair removal, hopefully soon. But this has really been a journey of self-discovery, and I've loved every second of it because, like I said, when I had my breakdown at the beginning of March, I say breakdown like I was pretty bad. Maybe. I don't know. They will tell me. If y'all see this, tell me how bad it was. Actually, don't. I'm going to delete this. So, when I had my reanalysis of myself in February and March, I didn't want to be a Geroo. I wasn't looking to change species. I wasn't looking to de-justify the amount of money I spent on her. I was trying to find out and reorganize myself to where I could exist with the theories that have always lived in the back of my head, but have failed in practice because society do be a bitch. And what ends up happening is Raccoon went into the recycler, and the recompiler spit out a Geroo. I don't know how else to put it. And then you think back how, yeah, the kangaroo suit fit. You like the pouch. You enjoy these things. You like the artwork, obviously, but you like the wealth of stories and how big and open the galaxy is. And you see these antagonistic characters, and even then, they figure out a way to make them somewhat sympathetic. I don't know. I just wanted to explain this again, post another video, I guess, get back into the swing of things. You can see this video, I did some editing. I tried to add some stuff. One of the fun things about this whole thing was last month I went to a clinic to see a doctor about my transitioning, about getting augmentation and surgeries. And I'm thumbing through one of the books. It's on my Kindle. And here, I'll put it up on Still Source. So that's Inzari. Inzari is a ringel. She is part of a species that primarily are ne'er-do-wells. Let's just say ne'er-do-wells. They're bank robbers. They're pirates. Their religion is built on self-gratification. Sex is a large part of their culture. But we're kidding around, me and my friend, and I look at this picture of Inzari, and I go, ooh, I know that look. It looks like so-and-so that we live with. And we send it up into our family chat. And 10 minutes later, I get back from this person who shall remain nameless. She goes, oh, is that the one who smokes cigars? And I'm going, okay, well, I just sent you a picture out of the blue. I didn't even tell you it was a ringel. I didn't tell you Hayven Celestia. I didn't tell you anything other than this kind of looks like a raccoon / lemur that is pissed off. and you immediately know which one it is. Fucking Ringel. And so the joke occasionally is if I post a picture of Inzari, this person will say, why are you posting pictures of me in chat? Tee-hee. I hope I've explained a little bit better who the Geroo are, what they are. I'm in Greg Luterman's server, and I was very embarrassed to say I had made a Geroo necklace. My own. In fact, I even started off with Tesco's necklace by recreating it from glass beads that I bought off Etsy. And I thought for sure they were going to call me a psychopath. And next thing I see, people are posting their necklaces. And that they just wear it because it makes them happy. And the thing I think I really want to stress and communicate is what my therapist told me a long time ago, kids. If it doesn't hurt you, if it doesn't break the law, if it doesn't violate consent, and it's not taking food out of your belly or water out of your who cares? Who the fuck cares? I never thought a little simple tail ring would ever mean as much as it does right now. Who is Judy? I don't know yet. But here's the fun part. As I find out, you're going to find out. I mean, we know who Star is. We know who Rampart is. Now we get to find out who Judy is. I'm kind of excited. It'll be a lot of fun, and I really hope that you come with me on that journey. For those of you that are interested, I'm going to try to get back into doing these videos regularly. If you've stuck around this long and you really like my content, please don't hesitate to send me a Ko-Fi donation. That's ko-fi.com/starraccoon, and send me a few bucks. I could really use to help it. It would help me with some bills around the house. I've got some medical bills that I need to pay off. It's been a while since I've made videos because I just haven't been in a place to make videos, both mentally or physically. It's kind of a production to make a video and talk about things. I want to get back into doing book reviews and promoting my sisters within the core and my brothers within the core. And doing the fun stuff that we used to do, that we used to have fun with and would make videos because we were bored, anything that was funny. So until next time, kids, my name's Judy. It's nice to meet you. Stay devious, my friends.